Welcome to the Encinitas Chamber Chat Live podcast. I'm Carol Knight with the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce. With the help from my talented friends at Max Deluxe, we will showcase the many aspects and unique qualities of the Encinitas community. Whether it be focusing on local business owners, advice from experts, or highlighting some of the local gems Encinitas has to offer, we hope you'll find this podcast informational and entertaining. The Encinitas Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the State of the City on Thursday, April 27th at the Encinitas Community Center from 5:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. It's a wonderful evening where guests can network and grab some tasty treats from local eateries, then listen to updates from the City Council, the Chamber of Commerce, the 101 associations, and of course, from Mayor Tony Kranz. But before we even get to that, we thought it would be a good idea to get to know our mayor just a little bit. So I'm excited to welcome to today's Chamber Chat Live podcast, Mayor Tony Kranz. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We have a lot to get to, but many of those who have tuned in probably don't know your background. What's your connection to Encinitas?
Well, my parents moved to Encinitas in 1960 when my dad had been hired to teach school at Earl Warren Junior High in Solana Beach. I was only 9 months old at the time. But I had the opportunity to grow up here in Encinitas, attend San Diego High School and graduate in 1977 and went to Palomar College, off to Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, and just had a wonderful experience of growing up in Encinitas when it was known as the flower capital of the world, and was able to work some in the floriculture industry and eventually got into printing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you are what they call a local.
Yes, exactly.
But you grew up here, did you? And you went away to college. Yep. And you also served in the National Guard?
I did. I served 10 years in the National Guard. I enlisted when I was up in Alaska and served in an air traffic control detachment for the Alaska Army National Guard. Also served in the Minnesota National Guard when my family, my wife and I moved back to Minnesota for a time. It was a great experience. It was an excellent opportunity to kind of give back to the country, hearken on the words of JFK, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So it was an excellent opportunity to get to know that feeling of serving the country.
So did that pique your interest then for service?
Yeah, there was no question it helped to kind of catalyze it. I had always been interested in politics. My sister was the first woman student body president at Cal Poly. So when I was up there, I had the opportunity to help her with her campaign. And so politics has always been a part of our family experience.
Wow, that's fascinating. So let's go back a little bit back to your early days in Encinitas. So you were part of the whole flower farming and Paul Ecke and all that?
Yeah, well, Paul Ecke poinsettias were always a big part of the community, and my mother loved them. So we always had our seasonal poinsettias. I grew up with G.V. Ashbrenner, and his father, Gene Ashbrenner, had greenhouses up on the hill at the end of Requesa. I worked in those greenhouses after college, also essentially grew up there. But I also lived with my family on Ocean View Avenue, and that's where Hagen Renneker greenhouses were, and the whole street. McGarvey's had roses, and there were a lot of plants that were grown on Ocean View Avenue on the west side of the freeway.
Wow. It's changed so much since then, but I still like the fact that Encinitas still has those roots, literally and figuratively.
Yes, it's quite a heritage. And of course, the value of the land increased to the point where, growing flowers and having greenhouses was not the smartest thing to do economically. We still have roughly 60 plus acres of agriculturally zoned land, which Leach Tag Foundation is currently managing.
Fantastic job.
There's a lot of growing going on there. So it's not as much a floriculture business. They're also growing lettuce there. Go Green Agriculture is there. And so it's really kind of changed a bit, but nonetheless, our agricultural roots are still a part of our community.
Yes, and I'm sure you've had the chance to go to Coastal Roots Farmers as well. I mean, they're just doing a fantastic job to service the community and have the farm stand twice a week. And their programs are simply amazing, and everyone in the community should really experience that.
Yeah, I agree. It's been really remarkable to have that grow up as part of the new ranch. It's been 10 years now since Leach Tag acquired the property from Ecke family, and it has developed into a real asset in the community in a number of ways. And the Coastal Roots Farms is certainly one of them. Pay what you can, farm stand, and some great food being grown there.
Yeah,
and focus is, of course, on the Jewish heritage, and there are a lot of things that they are doing that is in keeping with those traditions. So it's been really cultural swing in terms of what's going on at the ranch, but really great to be a part of that and have that here in our city.
Yeah, they are really keeping those roots deep and deepening their roots within the community and sharing those experiences with everyone. So that's really important. So a lot of people don't know, as a mayor, you also have a full-time job.
Yes.
So, and what do you do in your day job?
My day job is I'm in printing production management. I work for a company called Process Inc., and we produce collateral material, marketing materials for real estate agents mostly. But there are a number of other things that we do as part of that. I've been in the printing business now, been involved with it 40 plus years. I started back at San Diego. They had a vocational graphics class that I took there. And so I've been dabbling in printing for a very long time. It's a kind of a dinosaur of a business, but fortunately we are able to produce many things in a state-of-the-art way using a lot of variable data and digital work. I have a very patient boss who lets me do the mayoral duties during the day. So it makes it possible to be able to serve as mayor, which I very much appreciate.
So how did you make the leap into politics from printing?
Well, it was actually probably not related, although I have appreciated during my campaigns being able to produce my own mail pieces and other brochures, door hangers. So that's helpful. But for the most part, I've just always been very interested in making the place I live better. And I got involved due to traffic issues on the street that I live on. And some of the things that were being decided I didn't agree with. So I decided that it was time for me to run for office and see if I could make some changes. And I think have been very successful over the roughly 11 years that I've been serving on the council and making change.
So you started as a council member?
I did.
And then you did that before you decided to throw your hat into the mayor ring last year?
Yes. Encinitas, when it was first incorporated, had a rotational mayor system. All council members served a year, not all, but it was a 1 year at a time mayoral duties. Got a little controversial because a person, Teresa Barth, was passed over a couple of times for her opportunity to serve. And the result of that was that there was a decision by the council and through public pressure to put the question of whether to have a mayor that is elected on the ballot. And it passed. And so in 2014, we had our first election for mayor. I did run during that election, but Kristen Gaspar was successful. She served until 2016. And then Catherine was elected. And so when Catherine decided to run for the state senate, I thought it was important that we have an experienced mayor. And so I decided to run, and I'm very grateful that the voters decided to send me to let me serve as their mayor.
So you've been in the political landscape for a while now. Have you seen, obviously you've seen a lot of changes in Encinitas.
good and bad. So what are some of the challenges that you see that Encinitas faces right now?
Well, there's always a challenge of the housing crisis and our part, the part we will play to address that. A lot of state law, a lot of change in state law regarding housing, and our housing element update has always been very controversial. We have a number of multifamily apartment projects that are currently under construction, and there are more to come. So that's going to create significant change in our community. And my goal is to do everything that I can to mitigate for the impacts of the additional people that will bring. There will be more traffic. So back to the original issue that got me involved, I know how frustrating that can be. So that's one. The other is how homelessness. Homelessness has been front of mind for me and many in the community for quite some time now. And we're continuing to work to address the issues related to homelessness. Those problems are not easy to solve. It's really a regional issue more than a single city issue. I do know that our problem has been pretty constant throughout the time that I've lived here. No question, it's gone up a little some in the past few years. So we're working to bring it back down. And the best way to do that is to find them folks who don't have homes currently, a place to live. And whether that's here or in some other community, we want to help to guide them to that opportunity. We have a number of social services agencies that we work with, and so we're continuing to fine tune the system. We're eliminating encampments as often as we can. When they get reported, we go through the steps that are necessary to address that. But it's important for people, whether they're residents here or businesses here, to feel safe. And there's no question that homelessness has a significant impact on people's feeling of safety.
Right. And it sure does. And I don't know if the community really knows to the extent of how you're trying to address that. At one of our coffee connections at the chamber, we had the sheriff's department and then Stephen Gonzalez, I believe, come in and speak about the tools that they have and what they're doing, and letting businesses know that the businesses can go to the sheriff or to Mr. Gonzalez, and they're trying to work on solutions, and that they are trying to help and address as best possible.
That's true. And we have Stephen Gonzalez on staff now full time. Okay. He is working for the city of Encinitas, and he's the manager of this effort to find homes for the people that are homeless. And he has a special knack at creating relationships with folks. He knows the system very well. He came from the county, so he knows the social service opportunities that are out there. We have a fine crew of deputies who are working with him on what's known as the HOPE team. And they're really making some headway into addressing the issue of homelessness here in the city. There are people who are services averse. They don't really want help. Right. They've created a homeless lifestyle, and we're doing everything we can to make sure they're aware that that's not a good choice, number one, for them. And number two, it's not going to be something that we're going to allow to take place here.
To sustain. Right. So I imagine, because we're so fluid with Carlsbad and Oceanside and our neighbors to the south, Solana Beach and stuff, are you working collaboratively with the surrounding communities?
Yes, there has been some outreach and contact. Carlsbad spends a significant amount of money on their efforts to eradicate homelessness. And we're spending not nearly what they are, but a significant amount of money as well. So where we can, we are trying to pool resources. And the most important thing is that homelessness doesn't stop at our border. They don't say, I'm going to be homeless in Encinitas. They just are living on the streets. And so they may end up in Carlsbad tomorrow. So the ability to coordinate with other jurisdictions is very important. And the county has gotten involved in that also. There's a by name list that they've created a database so that when somebody moves from one jurisdiction to the next, that person doesn't have to go through the same set of questions if they've already had the key information
Mhm.
about their personal circumstances entered into the computer.
So that's a bit of a challenge. Where do you see what's a nice thing that's been happening, let's say the past 10 years since you were on city council, a great positive change for the city of Encinitas?
Well, I think that we continue to make some improvements on traffic issues. I'm very proud of the streetscape phase that we have completed in Leucadia. The El Portal roundabout, the undercrossing at El Portal has connected the west side of the 101 with the east side. Parents who have young students at Paul Ecke Central School that live on the west side can now walk or ride their bike very easily to school to drop their kids off. Makes a huge difference in their lives. I find it fantastic to go downtown now that I can stay off of Leucadia Boulevard and stay off of 101, riding down surface streets, go under the railroad tracks and off to downtown. It's just so much nicer with that facility in. And there have been other bike facilities that have been added that I think really make it inviting for people to get on their bicycle. I have been riding my bike quite a bit. My wife and I bought his and her e-bikes and have been really enjoying the opportunity to get out of our cars.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to make that riding feel safer. So we've been working on that. We continue to, do the business of the city, which is providing public safety tools, the sheriff's department, the fire department, and the basics of paving roads. We've really taken a hit the last few months
with all the rain.
Amount of rain has really created a mess of potholes. So we have our public works department that are working on that. But those are the fundamentals of running a city that you just can't forget about. You gotta make sure that those are top of mind. So we've been doing that.
Yeah, and I really love the focus on the bikes and the bike lanes and the safety. And I know a lot of kids are riding their e-bikes to school. And I know the San Diego Bike Coalition is going in conjunction with some of the city offices and B-Cyclic going into those schools and offering those safety classes as well.
Yeah, it's really important. Some kids have, obviously younger than 16, so they don't have their driver's license, but they're getting on electric bikes that go pretty fast and they're using the road in ways that creates a bit of fear in my parental heart, right?
Oh,
so
yes, for sure.
We're trying to do as much outreach as possible with the school districts around town. It's a little more complicated in Encinitas because there are so many school districts. We've got Cardiff, we've got Encinitas, both elementary school districts. We've got the San Diego School District, and we've got a number of private schools. So we really are trying to elevate that conversation to the point where it's a little bit more, a part of the process of acquiring an e-bike that these young riders get those instructions that are going to make them safer.
Yeah, I read that Degania was, in order to be able to ride your bike on campus, the principal was making sure every kid goes and basically gets their permit so they can ride.
Yeah, they actually put a sticker on the bike and indicate whether a bike, that rider has been through the training. And if they haven't, they're not allowed to bring their bike to the campus. So those are the sort of things that we're working with the school districts to implement at all the campuses, and including the elementary schools and private schools. That said, there's no question also that awareness of bicyclists by people who drive cars and trucks is very important as well. So we're trying to refine the messaging to make everybody aware of the bicyclists around them.
Yeah. Keeping on that bicycle theme, having B-Cycle in town, I think has been real positive, and I understand that they get to expand and maybe even expand away from the coast a little bit.
Yes, they're going to be bringing some bikes out here. It's a great company. We're very fortunate to have them here. And I was riding bikes behind a couple of B-cyclists the other day. They're getting used, and we're doing everything that we can to facilitate more use of those bikes.
We're trying to get a station at the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center. So
that
we're
working.
we're working on that.
Yes.
All right. So putting on my Chamber of Commerce hat, our mission is to help businesses thrive and grow and thrive. Sorry. So how do you feel the business community sort of fits into the growth of Encinitas?
Well, it's a critical part of the growth of Encinitas. We have historically had a pretty favorable business climate. This is a place where people want to come not only live, but also visit. So the opportunity to succeed in business is there. And we have a lot of creative people that want to live in Encinitas because it's a community where you can feel pretty relaxed and enjoy getting around town and enjoying the beaches and some of the other amenities that we have thanks to nature. But in the meantime, what I'm trying to do as a mayor is make the city function a little as easy as possible for businesses. So that permitting, if you've got to do some tenant improvements to a commercial space or any number of other things that the city might be involved with, we want to make that experience as smooth as possible.
Yes, because I imagine it's not always that easy to navigate. I know our economic development committee has worked closely with Roy and mapping out sort of what those steps are if you were a business coming into Encinitas. Yep. And I believe it's recently launched on your website.
Right.
So you can sort of step by step map it out. So hopefully that's a great tool for businesses coming in.
It does seem like it is. Roy is our Director of Development Services. He has a lot of experience here in the city. We have obviously some important rules about businesses and where they can be conducted. And so he's the one that's going to kind of check all the boxes and make sure everything's on according to our general plan and our ordinances. And so it's an important part, but we want it to be as, smooth and short as possible so that the business creators can get engaged in that business that they're trying to start.
And I find we have such a diverse group of businesses. I mean, you walk down 101 or even El Camino Real corridor and you have, granted you have your big box stores, which are really important to the economy, but then you have your smaller off-track gallery, you have, Brixton who has come in and you have some of your smaller local restaurants.
Yes, very proud of that. And, it's interesting history where we have the historic 101 that was built in the 20s. That is, the core main street that we have. But the reality is that El Camino Real has the businesses that really provide the largest tax base. And so we can't forget our El Camino Real corridor businesses. And I think that, because of so many homes are on either side of El Camino Real, it is welcoming to them. So they're not, they're doing fine. But in the meantime, we tend to focus on the 101 and I think that's for good reason. We've got the beach nearby and it's an important part of the history of the city, but it's really critical that we also keep in mind the El Camino Real corridor.
Now there was talk at some point about renovating, revising, revamping the El Camino Real corridor. Is that project still ongoing?
We started the process of creating a specific plan for El Camino Real, and it is still ongoing. There have been some interesting conversations around that. I did do what's known as a walk audit with a group of people that was part of that process. And we walked on the west side of 101 down to Mountain Vista and took a look at the way the corridor developed and some things that might be done different if there were ever to be redevelopment. So it was a great conversation. It's going to continue, but we've got a lot of other things that we're working on right now as well, trying to make sure that we keep our housing element up to date. So it's, I think, somewhat on the back burner right now.
All right. So putting on my tourism and visitor center hat, how do you see tourism playing a role in the growth of Encinitas?
Well, tourism has always been a big part of the community. I know growing up, there was a common refrain, tourists go home, because the locals would do their best to tolerate, but after a summer full of tourism, it got a little much. But the reality is that the city of Encinitas is dependent upon that tourism. and we have an obligation under the Coastal Act to be welcoming to folks who aren't as fortunate as us to live near the shoreline. So we're doing what we can to make their visits as enjoyable as possible. And there's no question that we have a number of businesses that are focused on that segment of the economy, whether it's Airbnbs, hotels, restaurants, and some of the gift shops that we have. There's a lot of focus on catering to the tourism.
We were voted one of the best places to visit in 2023 by Forbes magazine, so that's not so bad.
That's correct. That was quite an honor. I think it appeared for a time that maybe the Chamber of Commerce had something to do with that, but it's can't get better advertisement than a magazine like Forbes picking you as one of the best. So it was very nice.
Do you feel that we're competing with Carlsbad, Oceanside, Del Mar for any of those tourism dollars?
Well, I think we are. I think that, people who choose to spend their day at the beach, they're going to pick a city that they enjoy being in. I know Encinitas has a very strong reputation for being a relaxed place to go enjoy a day or two along the shoreline. So, we're fortunate in that way. I think that we've got the beautiful natural environment that we're part of, but we also have a pretty easygoing bunch of businesses and have a strong reputation for serving visitors well.
We are friendly folk.
We are. We do our best.
So I sit on the Culture and Tourism Committee, and there's so much going on in the arts world, feeds into tourism a bit, because we have the ICA, which is, a world-renowned museum. Yep. We have the Botanic Gardens. We have the Self-Realization Center. So there really is, to your point, something for everyone.
Yes.
Whether you're a family, a couple coming in for the weekend, staying in LA or Maria, or someone just hanging out at the surf house for a few nights.
Yes. I've never really gotten over the change in name from Quail Botanic Gardens to the San Diego Botanic Gardens, but it made sense, I think, marketing wise. And, if it's going to bring the greater tourism to the gardens, I think that's beneficial. I know the garden's been growing quite a bit. They've got a wonderful venue for events there. And I know they're also attracting some world-class scientists that are doing some really important work. And we want to encourage that to continue.
And that's another hidden gem, because not only is it the Botanic Garden, but they have so many great programs and camps and composting and what to do with the extra fruit or vegetables from your backyard garden. Mm-hmm. They have a whole program in place. So it's really quite amazing. Yeah,
that's really turning into a really nice area to go get the history of the community as well, with the San Diego Heritage Museum being there, the Children's Garden. There's a lot of really good things that you can do over in that little stretch.
Yeah, it's a really good hidden gem, as I say. All right, so let's talk about State of the City. The last 2 years, it's been held at Alea Maria, and this year we're at the Community Center. Why the switch of venue?
Well, because it switched from the Community Center over to the Alea Maria resort. And I thought that was a good idea. The resort had just opened, and it was an opportunity to showcase that venue, which is a beautiful facility and definitely is attracting visitors in and of itself. It is a 5-star hotel and contributing significantly to our economy with its transient occupancy tax. So I thought it was good to have a couple of years over there. But my tendency is to head back to the old school approach, which is a city facility that is also, I think, worth showing off. And the community center is one of the first projects that the new city of Encinitas undertook. And so it's holding up well. And I think that it works well for the event. And so I decided to bring it back there.
Okay. And is there anything else besides the venue that's going to be different this year from in years past?
Well, I approach these sort of things a little differently than the previous mayor. I am not the speaker that Catherine was. So I'm looking to make it a little more visual. So we're going to have some opportunity to look at some photographs from around town, some of the things that we've accomplished. I'm also asking my colleagues on the city council to tell us a little bit about things that have taken place and are going to take place in their districts. So each of them will have an opportunity to speak. We're going to hear from the Main Street Associations directly. And I think it's going to be one of those sort of events that is a little more interactive and should be enjoyable. I look forward to it.
Yeah, it is really great night, not only to hear what's going on in the community, but also to network with your neighbors, basically. All right, so without giving us the complete story, can we get a sneak peek? Your theme is City of Creators.
So
what precipitated that?
Well, I got to thinking about the history of the city. It's always been a destination for people who wanted to create a business success, create a new persona, perhaps. There's always been plenty of people, artists come and create. My father-in-law, through pots, he came down to Encinitas because he wanted to be a potter. And so that tendency to migrate here to Encinitas for that opportunity to create has always been a part of it. I see now a number of businesses that people have created, successful businesses, restaurants. We have teachers who create an environment in their classroom where students can learn. Everything that takes place in Encinitas is kind of geared towards creating a better world. It just really, to me, I think resonated in terms of what Encinitas is all about.
Yeah, I love it. The Chamber just wrapped up our Rising Star program where we recognize seniors in the entire San Diego Union High School District who have overcome some sort of challenge but are still putting education as a priority. And the stories today, I mean, if you doubt what the future is going to look like, I mean, there's so many young folks out there that you can feel really good about we are going to be in good hands. There's some really creative, inspiring, and inspirational minds out there.
Yes, and that Rising Star program has been really great to see take off. We've got some really good people, really good young people that are going to be future leaders. And so inspiring them with a little recognition, I think, is really important. So I appreciate the Chamber doing that.
It's heartwarming. It's one of our favorite events that we do.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
We appreciate it. For those who want a little bit more information, check out EncinitasChamber.com. Buy your State of the City tickets. It's sure to be a wonderful evening, and we'll hear a little bit more from the mayor that night. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsor, Max Lux. Join us again for the next episode of Encinitas Chamber Chat Live. For more information on the Chamber and its activities, please visit EncinitasChamber.com.